President Cyril Ramphosa says South Africa hopes to benefit from a collaboration in the renewable energy sector from both the Netherlands and Denmark. Ramaphosa, who was hosting the Prime Ministers of the Netherlands and Denmark in Pretoria today, Mark Rutte and Meta Frederiksen, are in South Africa on a two-day working visit. The President reflected on the historical ties between South Africa and the two countries and their participation in the anti-apartheid efforts. Ramaphosa has told Rutte and Frederiksen, as well as their delegations, that their visit is opportune given the country's energy problems. Now, while South Africa has been largely spared of load shedding over the past few weeks, there are opportunities for the three nations to collaborate to find permanent solutions to the power crisis. Later today, a Denmark and Netherlands South Africa business forum hosted by the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition will also be taking place. Well, for more, we are joined by our international news editor, Sophie Mokoena. Very good afternoon to you, Sophie. Thank you for your time. Perhaps you could walk us through what's transpired today. Obviously, topping the agenda as joint bilateral talks were underway.
Well, of course, this was an important meeting because you had two heads of government meeting the president of South Africa. It was historic because often you find that these leaders, they do visit countries as either the president or the prime minister at the bilateral level. But the joint meeting, including then the host, South Africa, was quite important because when you look at these two countries, let's start about, looking at the current issues, geopolitics. You have two NATO member countries, in fact, the founding countries in relation to NATO. And therefore, it was an opportunity to talk about the war in Ukraine at a time where the president and other heads of state and government were in Kyiv and also in St. Petersburg. And the president got an opportunity to engage and brief the two NATO member countries. And therefore, this paves way for the South African president and the entire mission to be able to lobby the NATO member countries to support the mission and what they are proposing. Of course, they won't agree on all points, but they can focus on common grounds. And then, of course, at the bilateral level, the issue of energy, renewable energy, just energy transition. You know that the COP meeting where world converged to discuss issues related to climate change was in Copenhagen, the first one. And therefore, it is in that country where commitments were made. And therefore, the country is quite committed to ensuring that the whole world does move from fossil fuel, but to rather more clean energy. And therefore, with their expertise in terms of hydrogen, they were able to talk about this and make a commitment and also sign a bilateral agreement in relation to that. And in the afternoon, when they are meeting business, most of the business delegation from both countries are people who are focused on power supply and electricity, and particularly the clean energy. On the other hand, you have the Netherlands. You know that the Netherlands, the Dutch, they are quite good in relation to hydroelectric power where you use water. And therefore, South Africa also, they can learn a lot from Netherlands, but also in terms of geopolitics, because of the relationship that dates back to struggle years. You know that the Queen of Netherlands in the 1960s, she refused to visit South Africa because South Africa was under apartheid. And when you look at the country like Netherlands, when you look at all those protests in those years in Europe, this is the country that really supported the struggle against apartheid, and therefore they were talking from a very cordial position because of their relations. And those two big issues, the issue of energy and peace and security around the world, did dominate the talks.
Sophie, thank you for that update. Just in terms of what else we can expect for the rest of the day, perhaps also tomorrow, what else is there?
We know that the two leaders will then go to Pretoria University, where they will engage with young people in terms of what these two countries are offering in terms of support for the youth. And also the business meeting. For me, I think that is very important. Fortunately, we have a team there where this issue of energy supply, clean energy and climate change is going to be discussed. And the three leaders are going to join the business community from South Africa, Denmark, and also Netherlands. And therefore, that will also speak to the much needed investment in South Africa, because they can then also talk about what these companies are offering. The Prime Minister of Netherlands in particular saying that it is important to use the renewable energy to create jobs for young people, because the issue of unemployment for the youth, it's not a South African problem, it is a global problem. And therefore,
Sophie,
for
I'm going
South
to have
Africa,
to
it's quite
interrupt you
critical
there.
because
Thank you.
young people are restless.
All right, thank you for that update. I'm going to have to end it there for now. Of course, Sophie Mokoena is SABC News International Editor, giving us the latest there as President Cyril Ramphosa hosts a joint working visit between Prime Ministers of both the Netherlands and Denmark as well. So we'll continue to monitor developments as it unfolds there.